A bing bam boom.
27 episodes. This is how we start the. Hey, it's 9:59, so we're good. We're still good, you know.
Absolutely.
Who
This is how
just
most.
tweeted?
When
Somebody
I hear
just tweet?
podcasts, this is how they
Somebody
usually
just tweet
start.
right now?
Yeah, I just tweeted out episode 27.
Hey, all the early people watching this, follow us on Twitter.
That's right.
Crafting
Special
a chat.
content.
Chat crafting is the @, but if you type in crafting a chat, you should find it. Beautiful Twitter, run by
Chat crafting.
our very own Genesis.
Monsieur Le Genesis.
He has 3 followers now. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know who it is, but nice chicken.
Awesome.
All right.
So let's launch.
Yeah,
Ladies
go
and
ahead.
gentlemen, welcome, one and all, to Crafting a Chat, episode 27. Your boys Adam, Genesis, and Giuseppe Jones. We're talking all things news and fun and entertainment and video games and movies, guns, knives, sharp sticks, nukes. We got it all.
That's what I'm talking about. No violence. We don't condone violence, though. But,
In a virtual sense. Virtually, it's totally. It gives you a nice safe venue for working all that aggressive feeling out. And with that, let's just jump right in and say, hey, Adam, what have you been playing this week?
Oh man, it's been an exciting week for me. It's been a thrill ride. I think I mentioned it last week. I fell off my bed on here. Did I mention that? I might not have mentioned it. Fell off my bed.
Not on this, but
Crushed my wrist. That was pretty cool. No real injuries. I still cannot bend my thumb. So I have played nothing this week. So Genesis.
Ouch.
That's why I wanted to go first to get that out of the way. I haven't played anything.
Now, well, you opened the door, so is there a little bit of a story as to how you fell off? Was there like an errant earthquake?
Oh,
no.
Hold on.
Let me tell the story.
Yeah, let's give your perspective.
So there is a deeper narrative in all of this. There is a villain in his story, in Adam's story.
Yes.
And he refuses to acknowledge this villain, this antagonist, this obstacle in his life, if you would assume.
Okay.
And let me just explain just a slight backstory of this villain. This villain is a sturdy, very well put together, and straight up into the air type of villain. Like this villain, he can impale you. In a virtual sense. He can impale you in a virtual sense, okay? He can also be used in a very methodical sense, like, hey, I need to put something up, I need to hang something up, it'll be all good. He's got so many practical uses for him, but you see, Adam, our good friend Adam here, doesn't realize that he's just the biggest villain. He is a super villain in his life. Because that villain, the metal bar that resides with him in his house, is the reason why he fell off the bed and he injured himself. And every time I try and tell him that, listen, this metal bar is out to get you, and he doesn't want to believe this. He doesn't want to believe this at all. The metal bar has hurt him because he's used it to, to maybe scratch an itch on his back or reach something on the ground or, I don't know, maybe beat somebody in a virtual sense who was not supposed to be in his room. There's practical uses, like I said. But he doesn't understand that this bar has been hurting him for years, and he doesn't want to acknowledge the fact that there's a villain in his life. Like, there's a Joker in his Batman story that doesn't want to leave him alone, and he won't say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. He won't acknowledge it all. But that's my backstory to his backstory to how he fell on the floor.
So let me give the real story.
Okay.
What he's talking about, I use a metal bar to scratch my back. It's just like a metal bar I found. Like, it's clean, don't worry. It's not like randomly found. It was just in my bedroom. I know it goes to something. I'm pretty sure it goes to an exercise bike, but I use it to scratch my back. The reason he thinks it's my villain is because it fell off my bed. with me as I fell off my bed. The reason I fell off my bed is I was getting up. I think I was going to go get a cookie or something, some Oreos. We're not sponsored. But I went to go get up, and my foot got wrapped up in a blanket, and I just went forward. And I was moving the metal bar out of the way because I keep it on the side of my bed. It's like a small metal bar. It's about 12 inches long. It's like not even a quarter of an inch thick. Like, it's a very small, like, circular metal bar. So, not sharp or anything. Occasionally I cut myself because I scratch my back too much. It's not important. But I fell off my bed and I fell onto the metal bar. It cut my side and my arm. And then I landed on my wrist, but not like palm down. I landed back of my hand down. And it bent completely. And last week, this happened, I don't know, 45 minutes before last week, before we did this last week. And I was in a lot of pain. I was talking to Genesis, the number one fan of the podcast, Kevin at the time, and I ended up like taking a shower, like to clean my wounds and like just clear everything and all that. So, but yeah, no, my thumb still hurts. So I'm hoping it's better soon because I want to try Destruction All Stars. But to get back on topic, Genesis, what are you playing?
One of these days you'll accept the facts. One of these days. Anyway, what I've been playing. I've been playing some more Horizon. Popped Kingdom Hearts 3 back in just to gawk at the 60 frames a second on there because it actually feels so nice being able to play in 60 FPS with the 4K graphics now on Kingdom Hearts 3, thanks to the PS5's boost mode. And played a little bit of COD after that as well. I also downloaded Destruction All Stars, and I also downloaded God of War, hopefully to get back into that. Because the new patch is out today, so it's going to be mind-blowing to see what that looks like in 4K and 60 FPS as well. But yeah, that's all I've been playing so far. I haven't started anything else as of yet. I think the last time we spoke and the last time we did the chat, we had just beaten Little Hope, and I think afterwards I had talked about we should maybe do like mini segments of like Until Dawn afterwards. Mm-hmm. So we haven't started that yet, but I'm looking forward to doing that as well.
Yeah.
Cracking open the backlog. I like that.
Listen, that's the perfect time to do it now because all the games are getting pushed back till summertime now, so it's good. I mean, I'm not complaining about it. It gives me a little bit of time to go and enjoy those games that maybe I didn't give a proper shot to the first time, or maybe I didn't even get to play the first time because there was other things at the time that caught my attention.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a consideration. And definitely, a very real problem for very real gamers. As for myself, very basic. It's been all about Ghost of Tsushima, really getting into that single player. I'm past, I think I actually just got into Act 3 because, I had cleared a ton of the side missions all over the island, and so I've been like chain linking a bunch of main quests together, so things are progressing quite nicely, and I'm having an absolute great time with it. So yeah, that's it for me. Short and sweet. So who'd like to go first today for their first segment of episode 27, Crafting a Chat?
I'm going last. I'm just going to say that now. Obviously, I'm going to go last here.
Fair enough, Mr. Genesis. Adam, it's toss up. You, me. You, me. You, me. You, or me. I'll give you first choice. Okay, I'll go first.
I think he's made his choice.
I wanted to reenact what it was like in school when a teacher goes, "Hey, who's got the answer?" And then everyone's just quiet. I just love those. I love those awkward moments of silence. But Giuseppe, you can go first because I'm actually excited to talk about your topic.
Okay, well, excellent. Well, so I know we do a lot of very focused video game conversation. This is obviously Crafting a Chat in our very expertly made digital studio by Mr. Mr. Adam in Minecraft, one of the greatest legendary games of all time. So obviously that makes sense that we would talk a lot about it. But we also like to take a pause every now and then to talk about some fine ideas and thoughts in the greater entertainment industry. This one, for me, I'd like to discuss a little bit about casting in film and TV. Casting is a very significant aspect of productions of any budget. You know what I mean? It's not just your blockbusters, not just your biggest TV shows, not your biggest Netflix exclusives or, the latest Marvel film. But for just about every kind of production, casting is a big, big consideration. And the reason I want to talk about it is because my wife and I very recently got through binging a couple of very intriguing shows where we both thought that casting was just very overall exceptional for both of these shows. The first of which being The Crown, and the second of which being the People versus O.J. Simpson. So we were both actually blown away by the authenticity in both Claire Foy's and Olivia Colman's portrayal as Queen Elizabeth II in The Crown, as well as Josh O'Connor and Emma Corrin's portrayals as Prince Charles and Princess Diana, respectively, in season 4. And as obviously in that show, we're basically picking up with some of the historic recreations of Queen Elizabeth II from essentially the moments prior to her coronation, and then following some key moments in British history and the role that the Crown played in those moments between British society, British government, and whatever potential role that they played for their culture. The way that they it wasn't just their mannerisms. It seemed as though a lot of the actors in that cast, they got some good vocal coaching. They got a lot of very, very good nuanced speech patterns and intonations in the manner of speech in order to more succinctly copy, almost to a scary degree, the real Queen Elizabeth II, and it just really shows in their portrayals. I mean, when you see them act, there are definitely legitimate moments where you kind of forget that this is all just plain straight fiction, and it really it just lures you in. It's very immersive kind of performance. And then, once we blasted through 4 seasons of The Crown, we moved along to The People versus OJ. And for those that were conscious for that event that took the entire country by storm, I mean, from the very first moments of its gruesome reporting to the Bronco chase to the legendary court proceedings that made national news on the regular. I mean, it was like a societorial kind of event. People were vested in it for every reason under the sun. And this miniseries, originally airing on FX, it has a laundry list of A-list actors that are attached to a whole bunch of key roles in this entire saga. In particular, Sarah Paulson as Marsha Clark, Sterling K. Brown as Chris Darden, and Kenneth Choi as Judge Lance Ito. They were very on point casting for those characters. But I mean, but also overall as a cast, they all did fairly well in terms of not just looking the part, but really inhabiting the part. And that's something that really good casting. That's first of all, you don't just get really good casting every day of the week and twice on Sunday. That's not everybody is A+ 5 stars at their job, and in certain productions that shows a little bit better or worse than others. And for my wife and I, both The Crown and The People versus OJ, they just in general feature casts that definitely put out those powerful performances. But it was definitely clear that each production was really dedicated to casting, not just for looks, in terms of like getting the look close enough to the character's real life counterparts, but also for looks. And what do I mean by this exactly? Well, this is kind of like a reference to like the ultimate goals of a given production. So, for instance, with dramatized biopics, again, using the examples I've just cited, The Crown and People vs. OJ, those kind of shows definitely are interested in data mining for the less commonly known behind-the-scenes stories of historical figures, events, and circumstances as kind of like an enhancement to the story that was widely reported on or historically noted or so on and so forth. You can go ahead and call it historic DLC. And while these works are not necessarily considered documentaries or nonfiction by any means, these are all straight, still fiction, the accuracy in the cast's look is definitely an utmost importance priority for these kind of productions in order to maintain that suspension of disbelief. Keep in mind, though, in these kind of shows, producers are definitely trying to sell audiences to appreciate these new dramatic moments, regardless of their historical accuracy. And they're trying to sell them on the unfamiliarity of familiar circumstances and individuals. So one way that you can get audiences on board is to enhance that authenticity, and look is definitely one of the most important ways to bridge that gap. And again, there's definitely a lot of exceptional professionals in the hair, makeup, and costuming departments for whatever given productions that are out there. But there is, at the end of the day, only so much you can do, with spirit gum. So definitely nailing the look for those for casts in these types of productions definitely speaks directly to an enhanced authenticity in story, in setting, in character. And while not every production may have the particular goals of biopics in particular, I feel like this expectation of nailing the look has expanded into film and TV adaptations in general, and not necessarily always to a positive degree or angle from the audience's perspective. In some cases, it can generate some very toxic reactions from the audience if certain cast decisions are made, and then that will be your first stage of criticism. And then when a product finally gets out and then the final performance is observed, and then people will continue to either pile on, or they'll apologize for, or they'll rationalize, or they'll what have you. But it's just a very interesting effect, and I'm not entirely sure that every production needs to have the quote-unquote nailing the look aspect as like the number one priority when it comes to casting. I'm not saying that it should never be considered. Obviously, these are definitely sub-professionals that contribute to the overall production of any kind of film project or TV show. So people do want to select the right actor for their show, whoever it may be. But I don't know. I think there's definitely been an enhanced importance to, or an inflated importance to nailing the look. And again, that's still a very subjective thing. It's a very subjective kind of idea, construct to keep in mind. But again, be that as it may. So why is any of this important? Well, I think our very educated viewing audience and millions of fans of the podcast, they're probably well informed about the role of casting directors, of the casting process in general, of competitive auditions. Sometimes we will catch some stories about, a part is, coming down to the wire between A-lister A and A-lister B. And, we won't really know until, maybe just like weeks just prior to principal photography, when we'll find out who's going to play that new iconic role in this new franchise or what have you. And I would also say that as a result, I would say most folks in general are aware of the significance of casting. And that it does exist in a way as its own separate specialization that does require its own space and pre-production time to get into, and to really get on the kind of like make sure that the producers are in line with the director, are in line with the writers, are in line with everybody else that's involved with making this thing go, that everyone knows who they're looking for which part, and for the what reasons, for the right reasons, I should say, because again, you can make a cast choice for a part that may seem obvious to some, but to the audience may not seem. And the reason may be a very specific reason for the production. They want to explore a certain angle of a character that wasn't necessarily something that has been delved into before. And therefore, you need to make an adjustment as to who you want to cast. So there are obviously great actors out there, and then there's also great roles out there. And in theory, any actor can play any particular role, given a production's specific aims in the messaging of the art. But sometimes, there are some performances set loose on the globe that are so absolutely stunning that the drama transcends to like an iconic status. And again, I'm pretty certain that everybody out there has their favorite, ideas for like perfect casting. Some that come just off the top of my head, not really any kind of like preparation, but really off the top of my head. RDJ, Tony Stark, J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool. I mean, these are kind of like tailor-made, custom-fitted roles for these type of actors that preceded their interest or knowledge in these types of roles in a way that's just perfect. Just perfect casting. And then sometimes you have an equivalent kind of transcendent performance situation that are results of casting that I would like to call casting against the grain. And legendary casting moves in this category are your Heath Ledger's Joker, your Charlize Theron in Monster, maybe your Morgan Freeman in Shawshank, or even Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad, who was laughing it up, hamming it up in Malcolm in the Middle prior to. And then Breaking Bad came, and everybody's like, ooh, that Bryan Cranston guy, you don't want to mess with that guy. So finding actors to do more than just fill a cast sheet requires great skill in the casting process. Great skill, but also great synergy with all of your heads of production staff, making sure that everyone's on the same page in regards to what they really want to do with character and what they really want to do with performance. And it's a shame that casting in general, it just seems like it's an overlooked aspect of production, because I don't know, it's just so easy to overlook. It's easy for the audience to look at a cast sheet and say, well, yeah, this it seems pretty obvious to me, right? Yeah, they probably spent 5 minutes trying to cast this thing. No. That is probably even for some of the most obvious roles that you may or may not feel have been cast in recent film and television. It might seem like that, but the reality is probably very far from that. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing that casting is kind of overlooked in that subliminal way, because it's allowing the art as an end product, as a final culmination of communication, to stand as its own, as like a singular piece, and not kind of like pay attention to all of the individual moving gears that make the whole production go. But casting on that's on point can take any production to like that next level, that it can do anything and everything, I should say. It can turn good into great, excellent into legendary. You can also do a lot to cover up the limitations of a production. It's like maybe they didn't have a lot of budget for CG, or maybe they didn't have a great set, or what have you. But casting that yields great performance, it can wipe a lot of that away in an instant. And finding the right actor for the right roles is everything. It can literally mean the difference between success or failure in any production. And that kind of leads me a little bit into, and I'm not going to delve into this too deeply, but of course, with the idea and the concept of ideal casting, you open the door wide open to miscasting. And that can have the extreme opposite reaction in your audience, and not just prior to, in terms of like an internet fanboy debate to the death, but it can also show in the final product. And again, off the top of my head, things that kind of broke immersion for me, and that were things that were more distracting, kept me mindful of this person playing this part as opposed to just simply watching that character in this story. Right off the top, Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor. ScarJo in Ghost in the Shell. Jake Gyllenhaal as the Prince of Persia. Russell Crowe as Javert in Les Mis. My goodness, I thought he was in a rock band, and I guess he forgot how to sing, or maybe he never really knew how to sing. I did a little bit of research on this. I found a legendary miscast that is just absolutely absurd, and I'm curious what the panel has to say about it. So everyone's familiar with John Wayne, and the kind of actor he is, or was, I should say. And,
I know where this is going.
Yeah. So John Wayne was cast in a little film called The Conqueror in 1956, where he was cast to play Genghis Khan. And of course, John Wayne is a legendary cowboy actor. But John Wayne just playing himself as Genghis Khan. Just imagine that for a moment. And also bear in mind, this is not a man that has ever put the degree of dedication to his craft that involved changing his vocal patterns, changing his physical, his physical acting, his physical performance. It was basically, that iconic voice of his, unwavering, and the exact same degree of physicality he brought to every film that he was in. So, if you can imagine John Wayne Cowboy trying to sell Genghis Khan to anyone, my goodness, it's just absurd. And honestly, if anybody wants a good laugh, look up there are some clips of it on YouTube, some a couple minute clips there. And it's like, my goodness, yeah, that's really John Wayne, and they really gave him that kind of facial hair, and that's just him still trying to be John Wayne, but he's Genghis Khan. Ugh. Anyway, so those are kind of like my organized thoughts as it pertains to casting. I think it's a paramount importance to productions. It can really, like, forming your cast is a huge deal. They are your anchors to the audience. They are what gives your cinematic adventures life. And great casting can make great connections with audiences. So I was wondering, I'm going to open it up to the panel at this point and say, gentlemen, what do you have any thoughts on casting? And if so, do you have any favorite casts for either individual parts or ensemble that come to mind, that you're like, wow, you know what? This was really special because of this person or this group of people. So I was wondering, what does the panel have to think or say about that?
I got one that I really liked. It's John Wayne as Genghis Khan. I was a big fan of it. I've actually seen the movie. because the Genghis Khan storyline, I was always interested in that as a child, even though he's an awful human being. That movie is very 50s and very racist. It has not aged
Yeah.
well. Very funny. I knew exactly where that was going once you said. When you named the three of like perfect casting, those were the three I was currently thinking of. And I remember when Robert Downey Jr. was cast as Iron Man, and people were like, "This drug addict? Are you kidding me? Like he's a washed out actor. He's not gonna work." So I'm glad a lot of people were wrong in that. Breaking Bad, by the way, it still bothers me. I haven't watched that. When you first brought up casting, I thought of the entire show. Because Breaking Bad, every single actor in that show, whether it be a side character that only has one line, you remember that character. Because the line was written so well. Bill Burr is in that show, and he was great. And now he's in The Mandalorian, and apparently he's also great in that. And I guarantee you he wouldn't be in The Mandalorian if he wasn't in Breaking Bad. So, Breaking Bad is just the whole Breaking Bad universe, including Better Call Saul and like everything. So good. There were a couple others I thought of, but I didn't think they were worth mentioning. Like I have my ones were like DC related, but I haven't really seen them. Like I know they can be great, but the material of DC hasn't been that great, so I can't say they've been perfectly casted.
Well,
I
that is again another thing to consider too. It's like casting doesn't have control over lines of dialogue. They also don't have any control over where the director's vision wants to go in particular. So there does require a strong element of synergy to bring it all together to really show like the true value of a really solid cast.
Yeah, almost every X-Men movie is not that great, especially looking back on them. At the time, like the first two were really good, but going back, they've not aged that well. But Hugh Jackman, like he brought it, and he looks nothing like the character, but he's great as Wolverine. I don't know if he'll ever be replaced, but he's just one where it's like the material wasn't always good, but he was great in everything. Like every single moment he was great in. There's not even no matter how everyone hates X-Men Origins Wolverine, nobody's walking out of there being like, well, Hugh Jackman wasn't that good in it. Like that's the furthest thing from
He was.
everybody's mind. He was great. He's great in everything.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. There's a couple. Genesis, you got any?
I always agreeing with Robert Downey Jr. As Iron Man. Definitely one of the best casts that I've seen for a character. When I look back on it, I think if after the whole saga is said and done, I think if somebody else was cast, I don't know if it would have been as memorable of an ending as he had at the end of the entire saga. Heath Ledger as the Joker. That's another one that I'm like, man, that's a casting and a half to get that look, that the way he just plays the Joker, the way he embodies that role, especially to the point where obviously he just lived and breathed that role. I actually I'm gonna go to your DC point. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I didn't because after seeing her in Fast and Furious, I'm like, what? She's gonna be what? She's too skinny. It doesn't make any sense because Wonder Woman is never known to be like that, like what she looked like in Fast and Furious. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, I was one of the ones who didn't believe that was gonna work, and it worked out pretty well. And then what's Jason Momoa as Aquaman? Because when I first saw him, I mean, Aquaman's always, anytime I remember the animated series, it's always a white guy with blonde hair as Aquaman. Even when they I'll even go to like SpongeBob when they do like Mermaid Man, and that's the play off of Aquaman. Like he's a white guy. He was a white guy with blonde hair. You think of Jason Momoa and you're like, oh, that's gonna be Aquaman. Oh, okay, cool. And then I'm trying to think of another one that really stuck with me. Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. Hilarious, loved it. I thought it was actually the perfect cast for that one. And then
Definitely the right tone of film. You know what I mean? Like an actor custom made for that tone, definitely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then Chris Hemsworth as Thor, he nailed it pretty well. That's not his actual accent, right? When he speaks, that's not his real
more
accent.
Aussie. Well, he's Australian, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's similar to it, but he changes it a little bit.
But
yeah, it's definitely more British for the film.
Yeah.
Just the way he talks, the way he does everything in that role, I'm like, dude, you fit Thor to like the T, basically. Yeah, I mean, those are some of the ones that I can remember off the top of my head right there.
If I can just respond to some of those, Giuseppe, if that's okay with you.
Go for it.
Be Still My Heart, when you brought up Wonder Woman. Oh my God. When you brought that up, I didn't want to bring that up because I was just like, DC, you know. But yeah, when I remember arguing with everybody. Yeah, I remember arguing with everybody, being like, yeah, she's thin, but she'll bulk up, and like then photos were released of her as Wonder Woman, and I'm like, yeah, she didn't bulk up as much as we all thought, but I'm like, maybe she'll be good. And then I saw her in the Fast and Furious movies because I wasn't really into those until like a few years ago, and then I was like, she's not a great actress, but I as much as I dislike Zack Snyder, he either 100% nails a casting or he completely messes it up. As has been mentioned by Giuseppe.
And granted too, he's also not credited as a casting director in any of his productions, but obviously as the primary director, you have a lot of influence in determining and having basically veto power over everything. So in a way, he's still virtually that as well. So
there's been interviews and stuff with Gal, and she was like, the casting director didn't want her, but Zach pulled for her. Like, there were so many things. Aquaman, when Jason Momoa was cast, I was like, I don't watch Game of Thrones. I don't know who this guy is, but they're finally
where he was from.
They're finally making Aquaman cool. So I was like, okay, cool, because I remember Aquaman and Super Friends. He was trash. And then in the Justice League animated TV show, like in the 2000s, they gave him a cool voice, but he was still a white guy with blonde hair. Then they gave him a hook hand because that's how they made him cool. This time they got Jason Momoa, like a cool guy who.
He instantly became super cool, and people were like, "Oh, I can relate to." That's awesome. That he looks. You see so many comments about him, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is he looks so good in it. He just nails the part." Another one.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Johnny Depp for Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, I mean, again, now that's had that production chosen to make Captain Jack a more of a classic pirate, then putting Johnny Depp into that role seems less. This kind of like speaks to the point that I was making earlier. It's like, look, you got to look at what the production wants to do with story and character. So because they wanted to make Captain Jack a bit of a kook, Johnny Depp slides right in there perfectly. But if you want to make him kind of like one of those dashing classic rogue types, while Johnny Depp does have the look for it, you don't necessarily cast Johnny Depp just for that. You want him for the alt, for the slightly off and yet somehow charismatic. And that was kind of like what I wanted to talk really briefly, touching back on Jason Momoa, is that his personality and natural charisma seems to shine forth from the roles that he engages in. And I feel like that's really more a testament to his drive and desire to do well in roles and in productions, as opposed to just like acting talents. And I'm just saying, is like that's where you can like legitimately say, hey, that person right there, that's an A for effort right there, and it shows, and people buy, and they buy into it, they respond to it, and that's an element of some great casting.
Yeah. He was really bad in Conan remake, so bad casting on that one. That movie was bad though.
I didn't see it.
I stole it. No, I didn't. FBI, haha. But yeah, I did. It's not good. Going back to some of what Genesis brought up, I think Chris Pratt is entirely replaceable in
Really?
Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, I think he's great in the role, but I could see an unknown jumping in there, or even some people that are actors like just jumping in there. I think Chris Pratt is great in Parks and Rec. I think he's irreplaceable in that. But I think he's completely replaceable. The one that I'm surprised with in Guardians that I don't think is replaceable, Bradley Cooper. Even though he's not known to be a voice actor, he is great as Rocket Raccoon. Like, he is so funny as Rocket. Like, he brings the charm, he brings the funny. I would have never thought of Bradley Cooper doing a voice role in a movie, especially at the time when Guardians came out and Bradley Cooper's face was recognizable. Like, I would have never even thought about it. If we were going to give him a voice role, I'd be like, well, give him a face role, too. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is one of the biggest actors right now. But, he's so good as Rocket. Yeah. Totally. Just wanted to throw that out there. And the Johnny Depp stuff, I wasn't a fan of the Pirates movies, but Johnny was good in it.
I love the Pirates movies. That was one of the movies that I grew up with as a kid and watching. I only actually got introduced to those movies, I think, because my father or somebody had watched one of the movies. It was it was when it first came out, and he and his friend went to go watch it, and then afterwards they were saying, oh, it's this and that, and the kids went to go see it afterwards. And we all sat down and watched it, and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Being a pirate is so cool. I mean, I think I was like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12. Has it been that long since it's come out? I can't keep track.
2003 or something was the first one, or something like that. It was a while ago. I think your dad could have been played by somebody else, though.
Yeah, possible. Johnny Depp, by the way, also nominated for Best Actor for the first Pirates of the Caribbean. Didn't win, but he was nominated.
At Oscars?
Yes, sir.
Might have been a bad year that year.
He did not win. I forgot who won that year, but I was kind of stunned when I learned that they actually pushed for a nomination. But then again, at the end of the day, it was a Disney production, so they're going to definitely throw their money around and do their thing.
Shocking.
This is an odd one that I'm going to toss in, but I don't know whether to call it good or bad, but would you ever want anybody else to play Dominic Toretto from Fast and Furious other than Vin Diesel?
Yes.
He immediately goes, yes. Listen,
not for the reasons you're thinking, though.
Oh, okay. Well, go elaborate.
Well, I want Vin Diesel's music career to take off. Because you feel like I do, you know what I mean? That was a bop. We need more of that. He's got to retire. He's got to get back in the recording studio. He's got to write more songs. Fast and Furious 12 is when he writes the theme song, and it's a whole musical.
Wow.
So
there it is. Honestly, his character is just your basic tough guy role. And while theoretically any quote-unquote tough guy actor could slide into that part, they've made so many films with him in it now as that character. It's just like, it would be just pointless to recast. Honestly, it would just simply make more sense to just stop. Just stop making those movies. I mean, you've run your course right into the ground, and we're drilling all the way to the center of the earth. Like, just stop with this car stuff. I mean, just stop.
I think if the next one came out and it was Howie Mandel instead of Vin Diesel, I don't think like 50% of the audience would notice. And then the next one, after Vin Diesel renegotiates his contract and he's back, people will be like, well, I mean, he's all right. He's better than the other guy, I guess. Like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Benedict, I think how you say it. Well, how do you say his name? Cumberbatch. Cumberbatch for Doctor Strange. I think that was a very, very good cast. I think as well.
It's a typecast for me.
Really?
I mean,
it's smart guy. He plays a smart guy.
He's a smart guy. He did a good job as Sherlock.
Yeah, he's great.
He's a very it's for him. It's all about that voice. Like he's got a tremendous voice in general, but he has a very talented voice actor on top of his regular physical acting presence. So, I mean, it really starts with voice for that gentleman. I would say that he's a good cast for Doctor Strange. I wouldn't say that impossible to recast, but
Patrick
very
Dempsey.
difficult. No, not a chance. No.
You gotta watch more Grays, you'll get convinced.
Nah, McDreamy can stay down. Anywho. So yeah, I mean, casting. When we think about certain, films and TV shows and characters and iconic, stories, casting really does a lot to kind of like solidify those concepts, those ideas. And those are the kinds of things that, that stick with audiences for generations, if not lifetimes. So yeah, casting. It's kind of a big deal. Try to nail it more often, Hollywood. You can't always get, Tom Hanks to just, plug him into generic role, whatever, generic leading man, and that's going to make every production go. Guess what? That is not the case. As talented as that man is, that is not the case. So,
yeah, you wouldn't want to put him in some cowboy movie that's not animated. You know what I mean? Like, who would do that? Nobody.
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah, it's like, seriously, cowboy movies? Oh, man. And then, turn of the century, gangsters on the run with Tommy guns? It's like, nah. I can't have that.
Yeah.
So, it's something to consider. And that would be my segment right there, in a nutshell.
Nice.
Wow. That was a great segment.
Very good segment.
Get ready for this very great transition. I'm pulling up stuff.
Transitioning.
How's everyone doing? How did everybody like that talk? Was it good? Genesis, what did you think?
I enjoyed it.
Are you doing the Mr. Coffee thing?
Do we have any?
You're doing the Mr. Coffee thing, Giuseppe.
Mr. Coffee?
Yeah,
Mr. John Coffee?
You were going the do. Yes. Mr. Coffee.
Yes.
It's Wayne's World, but it's also Mr. Coffee from E3, if everybody remembers.
Mr. Peanut recently found his monocle. He grew up.
Mr. Peanut accidentally cast J.K. Simmons. Great guy. Oh, that's Peanut M&M. Never mind. Anyways, I kind of just wanted to talk about the news this week. There's a lot of news that happened. Some of y'all may have seen the news, not like political and stuff, like video game news. Don't worry, we're not gonna alienate anybody.
We don't talk about that on here. Yeah,
That's a segue for Mass Effect. We're not talking about that. I don't care about that. We're talking about it after we talk about this first thing.
Awesome. Mass Effect.
Yeah, I know, crazy. So the first one I want to talk about, it starts all the way back in 2019. Some would call it the before times. Before what? We can't say because we'll probably get demonetized, even though we're not monetized.
Before.
The before times. That was when MLB, Sony, and San Diego Studios put out basically a notice being like, hey, in order to retain the MLB license, MLB The Show is going to go on different consoles. This last week, I believe it was Friday or Thursday.
It was Friday.
It was Friday, thank you. We saw that MLB The Show is going to be on Xbox One as well as Series X, and along with PlayStation 4 and 5 and all that.
That's amazing.
Which was pretty cool to see the PlayStation Studios logo on an Xbox game case. I don't know how you both felt, but I saw that and I was like
disgusted.
Yeah,
I was impressed.
See, this is what I wanted.
Also, for everybody following the chat, if you guys are on our Twitter, I will be posting things as we talk about it on the Twitter now, just to help out. So if you guys want to see what we're talking about, hit us up on the Twitter and you'll see what we're talking about. Just posted the screenshot of the MLB The Show 21 cases on PS5 and Xbox Series X.
See, I was about to bring that up.
As I watch it.
Questions too. We want to get that discourse going. So come on in.
Yeah, come on in.
Absolutely.
Everybody start talking to the chat during Adam's segment. Sounds great, guys. Wait your turns.
Awesome.
Anyways,
Pretty awesome.
but I saw this and I was like, that's cool. Also, this is one of the only Sony first-party games that has microtransactions. So Sony about to make bank is what this is.
I would.
I just want to get your initial thoughts, and I know it's going to be spicy from Genesis. So I want to start with Giuseppe. Giuseppe, what do you think about seeing the PlayStation Studios logo on an Xbox game case?
Yeah, like I said, I was impressed by it. I mean, that just goes to show what the strength of owning licenses for games is and has always been. Basically, ever since games went went to discs and then obviously now transitioning to digital. You want to sell consoles, you want to sell platforms, you have to own licenses for games. I mean, that's games sell hardware. Software always sells hardware. And because they own the license to Major League Baseball, nobody else makes baseball games. And Xbox, they've always been a nice home for sports games in general. And their install base is always very interested in sport games. It makes all the sense of the world for them to just pay the piper and pay Sony to give them a baseball game because they're not going to get it from anywhere else. And so I'm impressed that that's happening. It's obviously only going to be great business sense for Sony. So good on them. And I'm impressed that Xbox didn't go to an overly elaborate expense to find some other unlicensed way to recreate its own baseball game, because I believe they've done that in the past to varying degrees of utter failure and catastrophe. So it's just better to go with a quality product from a quality company. And there you go.
Yeah, Genesis. What bothers you about this?
It's always the same thing, man. It's always the same thing. Yeah, the more, again, it's always going to come back to the same thing with me. With every time Sony in particular drops another reason that somebody should be playing a game on PlayStation, for me, it just doesn't make any sense. I understand the whole, they're still going to make money, they're still going to make bank. In some ways, they make more money than other ways, obviously. I understand that. When you get royalties and licensing fees and all that paid from other people who want to use your brand on their console, yeah, you make a lot more money. You get more exposure, a lot of things like that. I understand that. For me, when I look at something like that, and I've seen an Xbox Studios logo on a PlayStation case before with Minecraft Dungeons, I've seen that. For me, it's just like, why? Why are you giving up these things that make your console that much more, special and that much more like, hey, this is why you should buy a PlayStation. For years, it was like, hey, if you wanted access to baseball games, you buy a PlayStation. That's how you get access to baseball games, because every other garbage baseball game came out on the other consoles, and they were just absolute trash compared to MLB The Show. I don't play those games. I don't follow them anyway. I just know that the other ones, there's a reason why those don't get made anymore. This is the only one that still gets made, because this is one of the better ones out of the segment. I don't know. It infuriates me when I see something like that, because I'm like, you're just giving handouts at that point. But again, it makes money. It's for a good reason, so I guess I can understand it in a way.
So like a really quick response to that, and I agree with like the core sentiment of everything that you're saying there, and I would say for any other game that was a little bit more unique kind of experience, I would definitely say 100%. Sony, keep your stuff in house. That's what keeps your install base loyal and consistently loyal. However, I have a different take when it comes to sport games, because for the most part, sport games are as generic as video games come. You know what I mean? They very rarely make any kind of quantum leaps in every yearly installment of whatever the sport game is, as it pertains to graphic fidelity, gameplay, or functionality. You're looking at very, very snail's pace type evolution. And again, that's because there's only so much you can do with a year turnaround for your new product. So that means asset sharing and duplication is inevitable, and there's going to be a lot of copy paste going on. So that's why I feel less, less passionate about Sony keeping their in-house licensing strictly in-house as it pertains to MLB The Show. In a way, I'd also feel very similar to like Gran Turismo. If that were to branch out to other platforms, I would have kind of like a similar opinion. But I still do absolutely agree with what you're saying. Like at the heart of what you're saying is like, look, you have these licenses, you own these licenses, keep them in house, and that's how you keep your people happy because you've given them a home that's reliable and again quality product. So,
and I'm not saying this with any just quote unquote with no evidence or any proof or anything. Oh. Yeah. I look at like recently the Switch sales numbers came out, and Nintendo doesn't let anybody use any of their licenses, and if you do, you got to pay so much money. Like when a Super Mario Run came on the iPhone first, I don't know what that deal must have cost Apple to do that, but to have it appear first on their iPhones probably cost them a good chunk of money, probably from both sides, because they obviously wanted to get exposure on that, obviously, and what better platform to do it than the dumbest platform of them all, which is the Apple iPhone. But, they keep all their licenses in-house. They don't let anybody use them. And there's good reason for it. You look at the sales numbers of some of these games, and it's immensely... there's just a giant gap, even against some of the best hitters that Sony has. And I don't pull Microsoft into this because they don't really... their sales numbers for their exclusives don't even come close to what Sony does, as well as what Nintendo, yeah. So, when I look at that, I'm like, that's the proof right there. You hold on to what you have, and you just build that install base there. It's gonna pay off. I mean, the Switch is catching up to the PlayStation 4. It's gonna surpass it in no time. They're already at like almost 80 million, and the Switch has only been out for what? 4? This is coming up on 5 years, right? 2016?
2017, March.
Okay, so 4 years. I mean, that's insane. That's absurd.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's my opinion again.
So this one, I'm kind of mixed between you both. I mean, I was excited. I saw this. I'm like, oh, it's cool. But I also agree that I kind of feel like this is just diluting it's less of a reason to buy a PlayStation. But at the same time, this probably wasn't Sony's. This is probably not what Sony wanted to do. We're saying Sony's license. Sony does not own MLB. MLB was they own the show, but MLB was, hey, we had multiple baseball games. We had the 2K one, but the 2K one stopped selling because people were like, I'll just buy the show.
The show is better.
Yeah. And they just stopped making it because it just wasn't giving them the returns they wanted. So this, I really think this was MLB going up to Sony being like, hey, you either make this go everywhere or we'll take it from you. And I guarantee you that's what happened. Ooh. And then they struck up a deal to bring this everywhere. I don't think Sony went willingly or even called up MLB and was like, hey, we want to put this on every console. Because, yeah. And
this has nothing to do with it, but my fear still stands of seeing very good PlayStation exclusives end up going somewhere else. So and I understand it's a very irrational fear that I have because they will never do that.
I mean, it's a strange fear, but they've done it with Horizon and Death Stranding. So, but that's to PC. With Gran Turismo, I would have an issue with that one because that's Sony's flagship racing game because Drive Club died. And if it went to PC or Xbox, I would be okay with that if Forza came over here. But that's not going to happen. And if it does, it's not going to happen for years. A game like MLB The Show, go ahead. I don't care. Like, I wouldn't be upset if Sony put a lot of their VR games on PC for other VR platforms, just so I can get VR support for a lot of games, or more games coming over to PlayStation. Like, I've talked about it before. Dreams is a game I would love to see move to PC, maybe to Xbox as well. I just want to see that community explode and more people get their hands on that game, because I think it would only benefit that game. But what games would you want to see, if any, expand from
Come to
PlayStation
PlayStation?
from PlayStation to Xbox, or Xbox to PlayStation?
Nothing from PlayStation to anybody else. I don't want to see any of the titles ever leave the PlayStation. Like there are titles that were originally PlayStation, like Devil May Cry and Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy, that have all gone multi-plat, and that obviously is not up to PlayStation. I understand that those are agreements they had expired and this and that. They're all, companies got to make money. I get that. There are games that I wish never left, and I don't think I ever want to see any more leave. Games that I would wish would come here, I think the only one that I thought of and now is going to be coming is like Left 4 Dead or something like that. But that's going to be coming in the form of Back 4 Blood.
Yeah.
There's nothing really out on Xbox that I would want to come to PlayStation. On Nintendo's side, however, if they somehow struck a deal with Sony to have Smash Brothers come onto PlayStation, that'd be insane, because then you can have PlayStation characters in there along with Nintendo characters. That'd be absolutely amazing. Otherwise, nothing else really. PC-wise, just more to smaller indies, but that's not really like exclusive. They eventually do come to PlayStation when PlayStation strikes a deal with the indie companies and says, "Hey, come put your game on this console," or this and that, however they strike that deal. But yeah, I don't want to see any more PlayStation games leave. If I see more, I'm gonna go to Sony's headquarters and virtually burn them down.
I don't know what that means. Giuseppe? Any games you want to see go over or come here?
Yeah, again, I don't think I personally would want to see games leave the Sony stable, unless, it just made business sense for them to do it. But just strictly speaking, from a selfish perspective, I'd rather things come to the Sony platform. And that being said, I'd love to see some classic PC games like Diablo 2. Man, I would love to play Diablo 2 on a PS5. I don't know if somebody can make that happen, but by goodness, I would love to see that happen, because, man, that game, so much fun, awesome co-op, just great looter gameplay fun, and I don't know if that's possible. I'm thinking anything's technically possible, but, man, that would be cool to see some, some classic, legendary PC primary platform exclusives from the past, and maybe not so far in the past, but even some recent stuff too. Bring them over to the Sony platform, because again, I can't afford PC gaming. That's why I'm a console gamer. I'm gaming on a budget, and my very, very minimal laptop that I have here is strictly for productivity only and can barely function outside of that. So I would love to see some PC stuff come to Sony platforms.
As far as I know, they're making Diablo 2 Resurrected, and I think that's rumored to be coming to PlayStation.
That was a rumor we had last week.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's the Vicarious Vision people. So that's an old rumor too, and I think it started popping up again last week.
I hope it's true.
Yeah,
it's a good idea.
But for me, I would love to earn a trophy playing Animal Crossing. I'd play it more if it was on PlayStation. So I would love that. Anything going. Honestly, if it's a franchise that is not doing well and it's not being made for PlayStation anymore, send it over. Like, get more people to play it. Like I was never a big fan of Sly Cooper, but if Sly Cooper being brought over to Xbox would make more people play it, so people get more games of those, that would be cool. Also, Sony be making bank, so they can buy more studios or build more studios to make more God of War type
Open
of
games.
exclusives. I know a lot of people on the Xbox side would be like Spider-Man, but sigh. Maybe one day, probably not. But
Never, never,
yeah,
never let go, Spy. I
you never
swear to God,
know. You never know.
I
But to
will.
get
I
off of this,
will
so we can make
burn buildings
Genesis a little
down.
more happier, we're going to talk about Ubisoft. I'm just kidding. We're not talking about Ubisoft.
I
Um,
swear to
no,
God,
no, 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 no. Blood pressure. We got to look out after that.
Calm
my
Genesis
blood
So,
pressure is
calm.
Mass
gonna go through
Effect
the roof.
Legendary Edition, that was revealed, like, there was some gameplay and stuff. Did anybody watch any of this?
I did.
No.
I did watch it. I watched the gameplay. I watched the trailer. Real good looking.
Genesis, you want to give us a rundown of what you watched?
So they went through a couple of cinematic pieces from the first Mass Effect, showing off how they had updated the textures, updated lighting, updated character models, and I'll also link the trailer up into our Twitter if anybody's on there. I will basically they were looking at how they had upresed and taken care of the original Mass Effect. Then went over to Mass Effect 2, showed off the improved combat, showed off the improved just cover system and things like that. Just overall quality of life adjustments there, and then just upresing and textures and things like that. Mass Effect 3, mainly the same. I think quality of life things. I don't know what else is in Mass Effect 3. They mostly talked about 1 and 2, and 1 being the main star to show because obviously that game is almost like 13 years old. Um, but this looks very, very good, and coming from a fan of Mass Effect 2, I never played the original, obviously because that was a Xbox exclusive beforehand, and then when it came as a downloadable to PlayStation 3 at the time,
Yep.
I
Yep.
never played it. But I really, really enjoyed 2. I thought that was the best out of the entire series. I played 3, but 2 was just, oh my God. I don't know how many hours I logged into that game. That was
Legendary.
insane.
Legendary.
Absolutely, absolutely. They talked about a collector's edition. They talked about it coming out in May. I believe May 14th was
Correct,
the
yeah, May
date. I can't
14th.
remember. Yeah.
All three
And
games and the 40 DLC packs.
absolutely, absolutely. There is a one DLC pack I think they missed in the original Mass Effect, but they don't even have the original files to it. It's something very small and very minute. I was looking at the Reddit today, and somebody pointed that out, and they're like, "Yeah, nobody cares about this DLC anyway. It's missing from the original Mass Effect, and nobody really shed a tear for it. It was something that was very missable, and just nobody cared about it. But this game is I don't remember if this is actually PS5 and Series X updated. I think this is just PS4, Xbox One, and PC, but it's playable on the newer systems, but it's not made in particular for those. But this is going to be 4K HDR, 60 frames per second, with the all three games selectable from one menu, so you can play from start to finish and get through the entire saga. They did make a couple of other quality of life adjustments to like the system character customization. You can now be the female version of Shepard straight from the first game to the end. Um, and I think that's pretty much it that they talked
Is
about today. They
the
showed a couple. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, are they making the multiplayer from 3 accessible through
No,
that? Or is that not a thing?
they have cut multiplayer completely out of it
Oh, that's a shame. That's a
for
shame.
the entire trilogy. They
That's a shame.
also changed the female look of the default skin for Shepard. I guess she looked different before. Now they changed her now, and there's some people are saying they like the new one. Some people are saying like the older one. I don't know. I always played as the male one. I always used the default Shepard, and I played as the male one, so I never used the female one. Um, and overall, this is definitely a good. I want to say a good, not a good step in the right direction, but something good that BioWare is actually doing in the last couple of years, especially after Andromeda, I think. But yeah, hearing the multiplayer come out, not being included, it's definitely a shame. I would love to hop on there, do some co-op. That would have been fun. But the specific reason was they want to give all the attention to single player to polish up the game to make it look good and play flawlessly on the new consoles. But that's all I saw today on it.
Yeah, that's an awesome thing in general. I mean, the core experience of Mass Effect is, strictly speaking, a single-player action RPG, and everything that they can do to enhance and focus their energies to maximizing that experience is definitely something that's good. However, having found lots of enjoyment in the Mass Effect multiplayer, primarily for the ability to play as the different alien species featured in the mythology outside of human, is just a great thing. Characters move and they use their biotics and their powers and their different skill sets in different ways. Again, they're very, very slight and nuanced because the control scheme is still essentially the same from any of the single player experiences or campaigns, I should say, from any Mass Effect game. But it really gave me, as a player, a stronger sense of agency over all of the different species in this universe, and that's what sci-fi is really all about. Is trying to open things up to new perspectives and new ways of experience. And I would hope that if BioWare does come up with a brand new Mass Effect game or trilogy or installment or what have you, that they definitely bring more attention to that aspect, as opposed to just customizing a human character with more sliders and options to enhance a character's face, which is fine. But let's give some people the ability to choose different species altogether, because that's a big part of sci-fi in general and Mass Effect in particular.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. Give us more options. More options.
So, yeah, I'm sure they weighed like, should we bring the multiplayer? And then at some point it was just cut. A lot of remasters don't have multiplayer. It kind of sucks, but
it does. It does.
But at the same time, like, I don't think that many people are going to be like, oh man, the multiplayer's not here. But
I know. I
yeah, that's what sucks. Like when they remastered the Uncharted collection or the Nathan Drake collection. No,
right.
Uncharted 2 multiplayer. Like, come on, bring that back. Even 3, I'll play a little bit of 3. I really liked the first game. Played it on the 360. Fun little fact. That's why we transferred to this or transitioned to this topic. Because that's a Xbox Studios game that they published it. So so little connection there for you. Genesis didn't catch on to that, but his mind's blown right now.
My mind is melted right now. That's what happened.
Yeah,
I believe it.
But I really liked the first game, and then I started the second game and I didn't like it. So I'm actually wondering if I should try going back and replaying the first game, and then like move on in the trilogy. I think that might be something to test out in May.
You didn't like the second one? Why
yeah, I started and I was like, spoilers for the beginning of Mass Effect 2. It started, and then Shepard blew up, and then they were like, we're rebuilding him, and I was like, I'm out. So
that easily is the most forgettable and nonsensical thing to Mass Effect 2. Like, that is, if I had my way, if I was calling the shots at BioWare, that would be the one thing I would jettison. Right, yeah,
it didn't seem like it was going anywhere.
No, and this is the thing too. The fact that they had done that in the first sequel, to me, even though things in terms of like the overall arc of that story were definitely building towards Shepard having to sacrifice him or herself for the ultimate cause, in the ultimate end of the conflict, of the final conflict, it just seemed to me, it's like, wait a minute. If that's still what the story is pushing at this point, to go back to the well, to do it again with that character, to have them die again.
Whoa, spoilers!
That's really that's that's just dumb to me, and perhaps gave me hope, prior to the original ending fiasco of Mass Effect 3. That gave me hope that they were maybe going to try to do something different and special with the ending of that story and that character in particular. And they didn't. They went generic all the way with that. And like, wow, so they're just being shameless about, oh, well, guess that character's got to die again, because that's the most dramatic thing that we can think of. We can't think of anything more dramatic than that. So that was kind of a shame. And yes, you're absolutely right. That's definitely like 100% viable reason to just peace out on a story-driven action RPG like that. It's like, wait a minute, we're starting from here, and why? And then we're just going to do this generic $6 million rand nonsense in the future. Like, no.
Yeah.
I totally respect that decision on your part. And I would absolutely jettison that if I could. But if you can get past that, the rest of the game is a very, very awesome, legendary...
I've watched playthroughs. I know how the game goes and stuff.
I know.
So.
But, I mean, just doing it, though, is a different thing. It's just a different sensation.
Yeah,
When
I say I like the first game, the part I didn't like about the first game was gameplay. And the second game... I didn't care for the gameplay, and then the story I checked out.
They've been talking about that they worked on.
Yeah,
the gameplay
hopefully it's improved. So.
Yeah, the gameplay in the first one was just atrocious. I mean, every time that you were running around as Shepard, it just felt like you were drunk and on roller skates. Like,
I still thought it was fun though. I was having a fun time drunk on roller skates. When I played the beginning of the second one, it still felt like one to me. So, but that's like one of those things where I haven't played Mass Effect 1 in, 4 years at the time when the second game came out? So I was like, yeah, that's how I remember it playing. I bet if I played Mass Effect 1 that day, I would have been like, ooh, this has improved. So, that's just how time works. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the Google Stadia shutting down basically all their internal development studios. So hopefully everyone there finds a job soon. Kind of sucks. The writing was on the wall. Should have got out. But at the same time, like, it would have been cool to have a competitor. As much as we crap on Google and Stadia and Phil Harrison, still, that guy sucks. I hope that guy doesn't find a job. Terrible. Yeah, he was one of the people who started crashing the PS3. Like, get out of here, bro. He really liked home, though. Let's remember that. But Google Stadia, like, it's terrible, and maybe the writing's on the wall at this point. It feels like it's been. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this. Not really a topic. I know Genesis wanted to talk about this one, too, so we can kind of lead into his as well. His rumors and stuff. If you have any rumors around this.
I don't think I have any in particular on this on the Stadia stuff, but my just 2 cents on the Stadia real quick is, and this is specifically aimed at one of the YouTubers, Markiplier. I'm gonna put his thing in our Twitter to see if he responds anything, but I don't understand where he. So I'm gonna give a little backstory here. I had watched one of his streams, and he was talking about Stadia, and he was saying how it was this and that, like based on his his play with Stadia and how he's had his experience with Stadia, it's been nothing but amazing. And he and both of his other friends who were part of his podcast that he was doing that day were saying the complete opposite. They were like, we've tried it, and we have pretty decent internet, and we've tried it, and it's just absolute garbage and trash. Like, I don't know how you can sit there and say, like, this product is actually really good and has some back to it. Like, and I don't understand how people can even back this overall product up. It's still reliant on something that is not readily available to every single. I'm talking about in America, every single person in this country is high-speed internet, and not everybody has that yet. without that, you can't experience anything on this. So when like, somebody that high up is talking about this thing like that, and I'm like, bro, you're only talking about it that way because, first of all, you're probably in an area in California that has the best internet speeds, either with Google Fiber or something else, Verizon, Fios, Fiber, or whatever. And you are in the quote-unquote optimal conditions for it to just operate the way it's supposed to operate. Which, yeah, given if you have 1,000 megs down and you have a decent computer that is not, you don't have to have a top spec computer, but a decent one that is able to run things in an okay manner, and a seamless connection with nobody around you using internet at the same time that you are, and you have priority over that, then yeah, it's going to play just fine. But nobody in this entire country has those, that would want this, has those optimal conditions. And I don't know. They made a whole thing about this, and console gaming, especially for PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo, is going to stick around for a while, because we still have not reached a point, and I don't think we're going to be reaching a point in the near future. Maybe in the foreseeable future later on, but not in the near future, of sustainable online lagless with no lag input gaming. It's just not possible. You can't. Not with the amount of traffic that we're seeing on the internet nowadays. Not with the every day there's like, I don't know what the statistic is, like, I'm going to just give a stupid number out there, like 1 million people just finding out what the internet is, and now getting on there and adding to that bandwidth and doing what they have to do. And then with the saturation of cell phones too, yeah, 5G's rolling out, but you still got
5G,
saturation of cell phones on there.
5G is a step in the right direction, but still not a solution to the digital divide.
Not yet. Not until C-band's bought, which that's a whole nother discussion for another day.
Word.
But yeah, those are my thoughts on it. It was the writing on the walls for a while, but yeah, it's rumor time.
Well, it was only internal studios. Stadia is still doing third-party stuff, so they're not shutting down the company, but they're all their first-party development is done. So Shannon Studstill, who just left Santa Monica, the God of War team, she went to go lead one of the teams over there. That team's been shut down.
That's too bad.
Yeah,
that sucks.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
Yep. So hopefully everyone there finds a job. Markiplier, I'm glad you're liking it. Everybody else,
Markiplier.
sorry.
I watch him every day. I watch him a lot. It's just the problem is when he talked about that, I was like, this is.
Well, he talked about his experience. He doesn't have to talk about everybody's experience. So that's what you want, honesty from him.
Yeah, absolutely. But
what's the internet whispering to you?
All right, what's the internet whispering to me this time? I got a couple things I want to talk about here. I'm going to lead off, since we talked about shows and castings and things like that today. Netflix, this is confirmed now because they had tweeted this out yesterday. Netflix has now confirmed a Sonic the Hedgehog 3D animated series from Sega and Wild Brain Studio, coming in 2022. It's called Sonic Prime. Doesn't have anything but the actual title, which oddly enough, his name is all broken. I don't know why, and then the word Prime is not, but his name is all shattered.
Crystals.
Any thoughts on this?
His name is shattered because the crystals are shattered all over the place. That's what's going on there, probably. Or Chaos Emeralds or whatever the hell they are. Or heck, Family Show, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Not too sure.
Chaos Gems. So is like Sonic like the last of the Primes in his version of the show? The last of the Sonic Primes. Okay, so Sonic as a serialized fiction, obviously it has been done, right? Like it's been done, and it was never a special thing then. It'll be interesting to see if they can capitalize off of the goodwill of the Sonic film and kind of translate that into a more interesting ongoing series remains to be seen. I never really felt that the story elements within the Sonic mythology ever really lent itself to that kind of a story. It just, I don't know. Again, never having really got into Sonic games in general. I definitely played a bunch, but I never really got into the story of it. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do with it, and maybe I'll give it a shot, but it certainly won't be something that I'm anticipating. And that's just my personal taste.
Yeah,
Any
I'm
thoughts,
not.
Adam?
Yeah, I'm not a huge Sonic fan. Love the movie though. So I was gonna say Jim
I just came
Carrey,
back from the game.
perfectly casted, but at the same time, that was just Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey. Um, I have really no thoughts on this. Giuseppe went far more in depth than I ever will for any Sonic property. So the end.
Coming right off hot on that one. This is coming straight from Adam as well. He just posted this in our chat. Thank you for contributing the rumors.
Yep.
Another rumor here. Nintendo actually canned the Netflix live-action Zelda and Star Fox TV show that they were apparently preparing back in like 2000, starting since
Really?
2015. And the way it was canned was apparently somebody had a leaked out information about these shows from Netflix. This is okay. This, judging from like what the internet's opinion is on this, everybody was, I guess, anticipating something like this. They wanted something like this, but Nintendo does not seem to like any sort of secrecy be even put out, even through a slight little spill of information. Any thoughts on this?
So wait a minute. They halted. They hit the brakes on the entire production.
They didn't hit the brakes. They slammed the brakes, took the key out, gave it to somebody else, and told them it's your car. We're leaving.
Like altogether, just because of a leak.
Yeah, the internet was pretty up in arms about this today. I saw it. I was going to talk about it in my segment, and then I forgot about it. And then as we were talking about this, I remembered, so I sent it in the chat. So I'm always happy to help out with the rumors.
So obviously, Nintendo has a very long and sordid history regarding its licenses and dealing with other business partners to produce content. And it all really started with that atrocious live-action Super Mario Brothers film, and various instances through the course of history where the licensing agreements have just been bungled one way, shape, or form, and really all because of the way that Nintendo handles its own. That being said, I think doing a live-action Star Fox is absolutely absurd. And number two, doing a live-action Legend of Zelda makes all the sense in the world, and it's amazing that has not occurred in a post-Lord of the Rings phenomenal success reality in which we live, because that's what Legend of Zelda is. It's Lord of the Rings, but just different. And all of the current technology in CGI, and obviously the proficiency of Hollywood level production value can sell that look, can sell that fantasy element that is the definition of the Legend of Zelda to a T. So I don't know. It's just it's absurd to me that that's where those productions currently stand as a result of weirdness, but it's Nintendo, so that kind of explains it all away in a very succinct kind of way. It's like, okay, well, yeah, it's Nintendo being Nintendo, so that's why it makes sense now.
Yeah, I would be interested to watch a Zelda TV show. I think that'd be pretty cool. But
I don't know.
Also, real dumb canceling because of that. But it's Nintendo.
Nintendo.
So.
They want to do what they want to do.
That's how they roll.
They want to do what they want to do. Keeping on the Nintendo train over here. I have another rumor from them. This is a 4chan rumor, so take it with a grain of salt. This one is talking about a direct that is apparently happening on the 11th of February. And the direct has the following in it. Arms 2, a game called Buddy Mission Bond coming in May of 2021. Arms 2 also has a date of June 2021. Tomb Raider Collection, Devil May Cry 4 coming March 4th. Donkey Kong 40, Guilty Gear Strive, Mario Galaxy 2, and Metroid Dread coming May 28th, 2021. Any thoughts?
What's Metroid Dread?
Yeah, let's talk about
Metroid
that.
Dread is a title that they have working on here. It is basically the other Metroid besides Metroid Prime that's being currently worked on. This is being worked on in-house by Nintendo. I don't know what studio. I have no idea. It's supposed to be in the same vein as like a Metroid Fusion, Metroid Zero Mission, so Metroidvania type of game, not the 3D type where you're first person or you're even behind.
I love it already.
It's supposed to be that, but it's going to be exclusively on the Switch because they want to take advantage of that Switch power, which I don't know what that means, but
yeah, I do love that though. I love that.
That is what Metroid Dread is supposed to be. This is supposed to quench people's thirst for Metroid, especially while they're waiting for Metroid Prime 4 to come. So that's Metroid Dread for you.
It's a heavy direct.
Yeah, if that is the case, that is a very big one. That's a huge one. Mario Galaxy 2 and all the rest of the 3D All-Stars game coming as standalone titles on April 1st. Odd April 1st, because that's April Fool's Day. But I don't know. If this is true, Metroid Dread and Devil May Cry 4 coming to Switch is definitely big. The Tomb Raider collection is also big for them. I don't know who wants Arms 2. Who even bothered to like Arms 1? I'm not too sure about that.
Actually sold pretty well because it was one of the it was launch or close to launch. So I'm not shocked it's getting a 2 if that's true. I wouldn't be shocked. I would be shocked if it got a 3rd. Similar to like a Knack. Like the first one sold well because it was like the only game, and then Knack 2 came out, and that's the end of Knack. By the way, bring that to Xbox. So with this, I mean that'd be a stacked direct. Nintendo has the ability to do that. What is Galaxy 2? Didn't they already make Galaxy 2 before?
So they're remastering it and bringing it to the Switch along with all the other 3D All-Star games that would then come to, as standalone titles for you to download. Kind of like remasters, how PlayStation and Xbox do that. They're figuring out the remaster formula, and they're doing that to Mario, but just not actually remastering anything, just giving you the game over again and telling you to spend $60.
Did they remaster Galaxy 1? Because it'd be weird if they didn't remaster 1 and then bring in 2.
I believe wasn't that on that triple collection? Super Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy?
Oh, it might have been. I don't remember though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be right.
I can cross.
So it would probably make more sense to do another collection like that, since that collection stops being sold in March. So hey, 3 more Marios coming the day that collection ends for another 3 or 4 months or whatever. That'd be something. But yeah, I don't know. Giuseppe, you got any thoughts on this?
I mean, the only thing I really care about is a new Metroid game that goes back to the successful Metroidvania style that made that a household name in the first place. I've never still to this very day for the life of me ever got down with the whole first-person shooter aspect of that transformation, of transforming that franchise in that fashion. I don't know. I don't feel that Nintendo licenses in general should ever be brought down to that minuscule basic video game design level of an FPS. I just don't think it ever belongs. But I understand their need to try to make their singular sci-fi franchise into a more contemporary, viable software. It's just I feel like there were different ways to do it. Um, so yeah, I would love to see what their in-house people can do by taking it back to basics and just making it work amazingly. Because this is the thing, while 2D can seem limiting, you can also turn it into 2.5D. You can add layer dimensionality to it and still have the 2D environmental traversal. There's just so much more that you can do. Case in point, games like Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, and in contemporary Metroidvanias in general. There's so much that can be done to make a 2D far more than just a Mario game. So it would be cool to see what they come up with.
Since you mentioned Bloodstained, just a side note, PlayStation Asia, so any of the Asian countries that get the PlayStation Plus games, they don't get the PlayStation 4 version of Control. So what they did instead was they gave them Bloodstained as their free game. So they have 5 games. They have Control, Concrete Genie, All Stars, Bloodstained, and a 5th game that I cannot for the life of me remember. But Bloodstained was the free game in any of the Asia territories for PlayStation, along with the other 3.
Cool. I mean, good for them.
We got to move to Asia, is what you're saying. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
All right.
Moving on to the next rumor that I got here. So this is a smaller rumor. This is kind of food for thought here.
It's a teeny tiny.
Microsoft claims to have 18 studios instead of 15. This is a legal document that came up here stating how many studios they have, and people have said that, hey, it could just be some studios, like bigger studios separated into different divisions. That's why they're counting them as separate studios. But currently they sit at 15. If they were to purchase 3 more studios, and there's been a bunch of rumors of, oh, Microsoft's getting ready to make another Bethesda-size acquisition and this and that. I know we talked about this before, but judging by they have 15 and just 3, right? And they're saying Bethesda-sized acquisitions. Just give me one, you don't have to give me 3, but what is the one Bethesda-sized acquisition you think they would be taking to add to their arsenal of whatever the 15 is that they have?
Ones that would theoretically match the same size, or ones that are actually ones that would actually be acquired?
One that would match the same size, because they keep talking about it's Bethesda-sized.
Well, Capcom is Bethesda-sized.
Are they?
Yeah. With their license? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. Capcom.
I don't know about I don't know about their actual team, in terms of actual in-house.
Yeah, anybody Bethesda size is going to have more than 3 teams.
Right. So.
Yeah.
But I'm in terms of the overall numbers of staff. But I would certainly say, based on the number of strong licenses and titles that they control, it's definitely comparable to Bethesda. Sure, Capcom would be a company.
Yeah, as we talked about before, I think they're going to try to expand in the Japanese market. Not sure who they would buy. Haven't really done my research on this. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like we've talked this one to death.
Yep. That's why I wasn't going to stay on it too long.
A little rumor, but yeah, no, it's every day I wake up and I look at Twitter and I'm like, what's going to happen today? Microsoft, what are you doing?
That'd be an absolute coup, though, if they were to acquire Capcom.
Namco?
That would be the lesser. Yeah, but
From Software? They could buy From Software.
Oh, God, that would be horrible. I would
that
not
would
like
be.
to see that.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
I would not.
I would only for the internet to erupt.
Oh, I would be on the eruption side for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, 100% you were. That would be a good Tuesday for us. Genesis and I are gonna profit. You know what I mean?
Leave them alone.
We're gonna tap into that outrage on the YouTube.
Red shirt
So.
all the way.
I'm gonna
That's a
tap
red
into
shirt
there.
day.
I got a funny
I got
chat
two
today.
more to go here.
Cool.
I got this one is pertaining to PlayStation 5. So apparently, according to one of the Samsung community managers, they have a PlayStation 5 firmware update coming in 2021 of March 2021. Sorry, to fix any of the 4K HDR and 120 hertz issues that have been having on TVs. Now, a lot of the TVs are not equipped to take care of this yet. As far as the 120 hertz is concerned, like the variable refresh rate and the actual 120 frames. So seeing that they're going to have their first update, I think in because they haven't had an update in January, right? There was no update for PS5 in January. There was 2 in December, but none in January.
I think so. There might have been one at the very beginning of January that was like super tiny.
Okay.
Or I didn't update my controller in December.
There was a controller update in January. That I remember.
Okay.
But I mean, the reason why I bring this up is that this is the first I've heard of a firmware update coming down the line, like in a reasonable timeline, and has nothing to do with any of the features that people are asking for, even like some of the big ones like the SSD support or just overall compatibility issues with certain games. I mean, if this is the first thing that they're going to fix, even when a lot of the TVs are not even supporting this, I don't understand. But what are your thoughts on this? I don't know if there's that much to talk about with this one. I figured this was a little off-putting for this is the only bit of information I've had on PS5 updates coming soon.
As someone who owns a Mr. Sung TV, made by a man named Sam, I have not noticed any issues with the PlayStation 5 being on it. So yeah, I don't really have much to say with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, not owning a PS5 or an HDR set, I too am disempowered to comment.
Oh.
All right, moving on to my last one. I feel like I had another one and I can't remember. It was coming from Reset Era too. It was from Reset Era. Oh, here it is. I'm just an idiot. I got two more. Sorry, not one more. This is pertaining again to our very favorite topic of Resident Evil Village. This is from Dusk Golem. So this guy I've spoken about him before. I think he's on Reset Era. Yeah, he's been mentioned a bunch of times.
Was he not the one who was banned?
Yes. Yeah, he was. He's aesthetic gamer now. I think that's what his name is now. He renamed himself Aesthetic Gamer instead of Dusk Golem. It says AKA Dusk Golem, but
wasn't he the one who like lied
on.
about like the Series X and PlayStation stuff?
I think he was spreading something about it, and people caught him saying that, and they were like, "No, you're just spreading rumors or lies based on nothing."
They were like lies. If it's the same one I'm thinking of.
I think so. I think you're right.
So you're gonna read a rumor from this guy?
Well, this is him talking about a couple things, and a lot of people are responding to this, so I'll read it. I don't not to say that I agree with it or anything, but Resident Evil Village has a small open world design. He uses the word Metroidvania. There's more of a focus on exploration, every area connecting and returning to areas than most recent RE games. The game also has nudity, sexual content, and the example he uses is the one that we saw in the demo, the Moth Lady. I can't remember her name. I know she has a name, and I can't remember her name. When you kill her, apparently she dissipates and she's just clothesless for a moment. I was trying to think how to say that properly.
Say nude.
Yeah, I guess she was nude for a moment. And then at that point they turn into these giant crawling spider things. Adam, think of what was his name? George? No, was it George? Was it Jacob or George?
Yeah, it was something like it was George. It was George.
It was George. I'm sorry I'm making you remember George, but that's what they turn into.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, yeah. For context, Giuseppe, giant centipedes.
I don't
Okay.
like that.
Well,
Any thoughts on this?
well, I mean, again, I still see this as again further if you ever needed more, but this is just further and more and just additional details to the fact that Resident Evil continues to transform into this generic horror game, which again doesn't make it a bad game, but it certainly does make it not Resident Evil Part 2. So, okay, do what you want, but it's not Resident Evil. So from this point forward, I will continue to reference Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8 as not Resident Evil 1 and not Resident Evil 2. So, good job, Capcom. Good for them. Good job.
Moving to my last one here, unless Adam, you got anything to add?
I have nothing to add, mostly because of the person supplying the rumor.
Yes. Okay. All right. So last one I got here. So PlayStation has filed a patent for VR technology. This was filed back in 2020, and the patent they're filing for here is so that people who are playing, let's say you're playing an online game, and spectators are watching you play the game, and you're playing it in VR. If they have, from what it looks like, and I will post this both in the chat and on the on our Twitter, from what it looks like, if they have a camera, it looks like a camera looking at them, they are able to interact with you in your VR game and do stuff to you in your VR game. So they have an augmented reality way of interacting with you, and you, in turn, are able to receive those actions as almost realistic actions hitting you right then and there. The picture that they supply, the person looks like he has a choice between 3 different items that he wants to pick, and the item is then picked based on them voting by like raising their hands or raising their devices against a sensor and a camera. And he is then given that based on what they are choosing for him. Another example that they talk about, this is an IGN article, by the way, just talking about this, and then people talking about it on Reddit. Another one is basically I don't want to say a home type of thing, but like just like a PlayStation Home type of thing, or a PlayLink type of thing either. It's like, if you guys have ever played that any of the PlayLink games, such as That's You, or I think it's like Hidden Agent or something like that, you interact with each other in real life based on how you talk to each other and stuff like that. But imagine having like people who are either playing online multiplayer or spectating you, like, choosing an option for you to go through in virtual reality. Okay, so you're given 3 choices to get through, and it's up to them for them to choose it, and they use augmented reality to choose it for you. That's another example of how I can see that, or they've mentioned that.
So, as someone who watches streamers, this was a thing, and then it died. It was a fad, and I'm kind of glad it died. Also, real quick on this patent, why'd they give him a soup ladle?
I don't know.
Out of all the things there, what are they voting for? I need more context to this picture.
I don't know what the one in the middle is. I think it's a child they're voting on there.
It looks like one of the creatures from the Jackbox game, the Murder Hotel or whatever. Murder Trivia.
Oh, yeah.
And it looks like, and I thought it was going to be like something like that, like, hey, this is something you have to do, and those have audiences and stuff. It could be cool, but I don't see myself using this, and I mean, it could be used, but at the same time, like, it's not, it wouldn't last. It's a cool little photo, but I will think about this for much longer than anything else we've talked about, so.
Yeah. Same, I'd say. Although probably thinking about it less. So
I just want to know what the soup ladle's for.
And that wraps up my rumors of the week, guys. If you guys want to take us home.
Wow.
Well, awesome. Any other final thoughts from anyone?
I have an announcement to make.
Ooh, let's hear it.
This is the end of the episode.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Well, in that case, we'll wrap it up, send us home, and ladies and gentlemen, that was episode 27, Crafting a Chat. We hope you enjoyed our fine company on both sides between Adam Genesis and your boy Giuseppe Jones. Hopefully, you found it intuitive, entertaining, and insightful. And we'll hopefully see you again next week, Tuesday at 10, for Crafting a Chat, episode 28. Who knows what we'll be discussing then? But until then, until then, be good out there, be safe, be kind, wear your mask, wash your hands, pick up a vaccine if you're so inclined and fortunate to do so. But chances are not, because that's a messy situation. But don't be a mess. Be clean, be nice, be happy, and enjoy games. We'll see you next week. Crafting a Chat.
Twitch.tv/craftingachad. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.